What is going on, everybody? Today we're looking at some Hasbro Star Wars Black Series figures from the Ahsoka show. So we have 7 figures to look at today, all from the Ahsoka series. So first off, we have Sabine. So again, all these are going to be how they appeared in the Ahsoka show. So with their looks from that, especially with like our Rebels characters, the more realistic designs of them, but how they appear there. So we have Sabine to start out, as well as Hera. Then we have Ezra. That's kind of like from the little hologram video that Sabine watches. And then we also have Professor Huyang that we see throughout the show. And then behind all of these, we have our bad guys of the show. So with these, we have Baylan, Skoll, and his apprentice Shin, Hati. So both of those look really cool. And these do look like it's, I think, the second printing or whatever they call it, where the lightsabers look like they have more of an orange tint to them. So they look more orange as compared to red. And to go along with them, we have Marrok, which was short-lived in the show, but still a cool-looking Inquisitor style character. So those are our 3 bad guys to go along with our 4 good guys that we have here. So all 7 of these look really cool, and I'm excited about them. Of course, there's more figures, but these are just the characters we cared more to get from the show and didn't care too much about the others. But I'm excited to check these 7 figures out, so let me get them out of the box and we'll take a look at them together. And let's go and start off with Sabine Wren, who is a Force-sensitive female Mandalorian that became the apprentice of Ahsoka Tano following the disappearance of Ezra Bridger. And after the fall of the Empire, she continues her search to find Ezra. So far, I think the figure looks cool. It looks like it does from the show, combining the look from the live-action show to the anime show of Rebels. So takes some of that, modifies it to make it look more realistic, I guess. So we don't have the exact looks, but there we have the actress, which I think face-wise looks relatively good. With the Star Wars, they do a pretty good job with the likenesses, and I think they did a good job here and all the other figures. And she has her shorter hair that is dyed purple, so looks pretty decent all around there. And then we have her Mandalorian armor, so she has this dark brown body glove all over, so goes all the way from the neck down to the boots. And then she has her modified Mandalorian armor, which she's cut up and made for more maneuverability, as well as painted up, because that's one thing with Sabine is that she likes to like spray paint and color and graffiti and that stuff. So she has different colors. So she has the orange and purple, light blue up here with the logo, probably one of her symbols that I can't tell at all what that's supposed to be. And we have those on both sides, the Rebel logo on the other side. Then she has some van braces on her forearms, so that even with some like spray paint design of yellow on them, so that's pretty cool. And then she has a belt, so belt on with holsters and stuff going all the way around there, even some pockets, and down the legs to the guards on her legs. So again, even some colors with some like maroonish sort of colors and the orange on there going down to her boots. So I think overall it looks cool, nice, colorful and stuff. I feel in the cartoon she was much more bright and colorful, where they of course sort of darkened it down a bit, but I still think she looks pretty good. Now for movements, we get our head that'll twist all the way around, down that far and up that far, so not the best movements, but not horrible either. We get the shoulders that come up to 90, where there is a little bit of a butterfly joint back and forth just a little with these figures, and it'll rotate around. We get the single elbow joint that bends to 90 there with the rotation, and the wrist will twist all the way around and hinge up and down for this hand. Then we go to the ab crunch, so there's a crunch right under her chest armor there, so she can crunch back and forth and twist all the way around. And then we go down to the hips that can come up pretty much to 90 and out to the side. Oh, she can do the splits there. And we don't really get a thigh twist. Her thigh just does twist at the hip joint there a little bit back and forth, but that's it. Then we go down to the single knee joint that bends back to 90, and it has rotation in it. And then we also get rotation at the top of the boot, so like a shin twist there. So you got to get that worked out together in that small area for twisting. And then we get the boot that does flex back and forth and twist side to side. So pretty decent movements. Has what I'd say the standard Star Wars figures now with the single knees and elbows, but she has pretty good range in both of those as well, so works out just fine there. Now accessory wise, she does come with her Mandalorian helmet. So again, her helmet that's been all spray painted and stuff has the nice rangefinder there that does come down, and overall looks relatively decent. Nice paint design. Again, darker colors, so I wish it was brighter, but that's just how it was in the show. And we can just take this and stick it down onto her head there, so a little bit of wobbly, it looks like, doesn't really seem to fit on there or sit the best, but it stays on. It's not just going to fall off or anything, just doesn't look like it sits the best. And then for weapons, we get her 2 West Star 35 blasters, so like the standard gun for the Mandalorians, again in different colors there, so we have a yellow and a blue one, so obviously we can put these into her hands. So there Sabine has the 2 blasters, so that looks pretty cool. Obviously we can stick those in the holsters as well. And then we also get the lightsaber, so lightsaber she uses in the show, that is Ezra's old lightsaber. So of course we have this that looks pretty cool with the green blade there, so we can give this to her as well, that she's training working with throughout the show. And it does have the clip there we can hang on the belt if we want. Obviously, got to take the blade off, but it can hang on there if we want to as well. But overall, I think she looks pretty cool, looks pretty nice. I think they did a good job trying to translate from the Rebels show into live action. Like I said, I just feel as usual with stuff, they darkened up the color, so I wish it was much more brighter, but it's just, trying to match what they did with the show here, and I think they did a good job. I think it looks pretty awesome with Sabine in this form. And again, translating over from Rebels, we have General Hera Syndulla, which is the female Twi'lek that is a revolutionary leader that was an important figure early in the rebellion. And after the Empire's defeat, she joined the New Republic as a general. And overall, I think she looks pretty good here. Again, they sort of darkened up the colors, especially with like the coat design and stuff, but she does match, relatively how she did in the show. And like the only real difference, like her hat is now brown, where I think in the show it was like a gray color. Overall, I think she looks pretty good there, and I think they did a good job. The face-wise stuff, looks like Hera. Of course, it was an actress, and I think they did her up pretty decent to make her look like a Twi'lek with the all green skin. And then it has the tail Leku's down here in the back, which looks really cool with the sort of circle designs on there. And like I said, the helmet with the goggles stuff, so it looks like an aviator pilot. And to go along with that, she has her jacket as well, so like a bomber jacket. So it looks pretty cool with like the fur collar there around the neck. Of course, the Rising Phoenix logo, and then I think that's the Ghost logo on the back. I can't remember exactly what that's supposed to be. And then just like I said, the all brown like bomber jacket design with her general rank there on her chest. She just has a brown outfit underneath there that kind of goes up around her neck, and then has like the pilot sort of pants. So again, she wore these in the Rebel show, so she has these orange pants that go up to her waist and then come all the way down to her black boots. And she's got brown gloves on her hands and a belt around her waist that comes down to a thigh holster there to hold a gun. So overall, I think she looks pretty good as well. So for movements, we get the head that'll twist around, of course hard with the tails there, but can twist around and then look up and down a little bit, so a little bit of rocking back and forth. Then we get the shoulders that do come up if you kind of force them, can get up to 90, again with that butterfly joint, very little movements back and forth, and rotate all the way around. We get the single elbow joint to 90 with the rotation and the wrist twist around. Now this one has a different joint for the hands, and there are some other figures in this wave too where it's got more of like a ball joint or like a dumbbell joint, so it's just on a thing that you can sort of like move around and get wherever you want in position, so there's not just a hinge back and forth. So it kind of works out weird. It gives you not as much range of movement, I would say, but it still gives you, so you can do back and forth, up and down if you want, so it gives you better range and better options. So that's kind of cool and the neat thing. And then we go to the ab crunch, so we get the crunch back and forth and twist all the way around. Then down to the hips, we get the hips up to 90 and out to the side. No thigh twist, again, just a little bit back and forth at the hips, but a single knee joint back with the rotation, and no shin twist at the top of her boot, unlike Sabine. And then we get the foot that'll flex, so it's real stiff, it feels like on her, but it can flex back and forth. So yeah, it's just real stiff on it, flex back and forth and twist side to side. So decent movements, not as much as Sabine had, but still no issues with any of it. And for accessories, the only thing she comes with is her Blurg 1120 holdout blaster, so just the little gun here that she uses, very similar to the one she had in the show, so it looks pretty good there. Obviously we can put it into her hand, which will, but it will fit down in the holster there as well, so you can store it, but let's just put it in her hand for now. And there we've got Hera with that blaster. And overall, I think she looks pretty cool as well. Again, nice translation from the cartoon series into the live action show. And our last Rebels crew member is Ezra Bridger, which is a Force-sensitive male from Lothal and a freedom fighter member of the Ghost crew that disappeared into hyperspace with Thrawn aboard the Chimera, causing the remaining Ghost crew to search for his existence. So we see him in this form here, very much wearing his Rebels show outfit and an old hologram recording that Sabine watches or listens to, whatever. And we see him dressed like this again in his pretty much Rebels outfit, how we see him towards the end of the show. And now, unlike the show, he pretty much, at least to me, always seemed like his hair was just slicked back. So this time they gave him like a part and the hair sort of slicked to the side and back. So I feel it'd be cool if they just had that hair all slicked back. But you can tell I think this was towards the end of the show. So he's all dirty. So he has like some cuts there on his face like he got in the show. And then his outfit has some like sort of scratches and marks on it here in silver. I don't like that too much. I feel with this, since it was a recording, they could have just made him all cleaned up. But they did add some markings like that on his chest plate there in the orange color to go along with his orange shirt with a red square there in the center, down to his gloves where he's got his green gloved hands, very much like he had in the show, and then brown pants with a belt around the waist going down into the holster here, so gun on the one side, brown pants going down into the boots where he's got the guards, pretty similar to Sabine, all the way down to the boots there. So again, I like how they did that translation from the cartoon into this just for that recording. But like I said, the face is the only thing to me that I don't like as much, because obviously they took the actor that played the older version of Ezra and just, took his face, cleaned it up, whatever, to make him look young and all that. So I don't think the face looks as good on this figure. figure, but the rest of the figure looks pretty good. So for movements, get the head that'll twist all the way around. Look down that far and up that far, so decent movements. Shoulders up to 90 once again with that butterfly joint, and rotate around. Single elbow joint to 90 with rotation, and the wrist twist around and hinge up and down. Then we get the ab crunch, so his is mostly at his waist, so crunch back and forth and twist all the way around. Then the hips will come up to 90 and out to the side, thigh twist around. You can see the twist actually in there this time, with the single knee joint back to 90 with rotation. And then we get the foot that'll flex back and forth and twist side to side. So again, the same movements with the Star Wars figures. The only difference is he actually had a thigh twist this time. Now for accessories, first we get his DL-44 heavy blaster pistol. So he got this towards the end of the show in Rebels and used this instead of his gun lightsaber combination he had early in the show. So we have this blaster that looks pretty cool. I know it seemed like similar to Han Solo's gun and stuff. Now with this, we'll go ahead and just put this into his holster here on his thigh. Now unfortunately, I can't really get it to fit in too well. I have to get it with this scope out for it to be able to actually fit inside, and then it only goes down so far. So doing that, it sort of fits in, but if you try and get the scope in, it won't fit in pretty much at all. So it's kind of weird the way it sits into the holster there. I feel it needed a different holster or a different gun, you know, one without the scope on it, but it does fit in there at least. And then of course he comes with his lightsaber, so going to be pretty much exactly like the one Sabine had, just the lightsaber hilt's going to be a little different with more like silver here at the bottom where hers had black. So again, obviously with this, he does have the clip as well, so we could take the blade out and just clip this onto his belt, but let's go and just give this to him. So there's Ezra with his lightsaber, and overall I think that looks pretty cool. Like I said, trying to recreate his look from the end of the Rebels series into the live action for that hologram design. So overall I think he looks pretty cool here. And next up we have Professor Huyang, which wasn't in the Rebel series, at least I don't remember, but he was in the Clone Wars series, so it's cool to have another cartoon character come into live action. But he's a Mark V architect droid that was a professor based aboard the Jedi vessel, the Crucible, that has been teaching 1,000 generations of Jedi younglings how to construct their lightsabers, and that's how we see him in the show. He's aboard the vessel that takes a bunch of younglings to Ilium to get their lightsaber crystals, and he even taught Master Yoda, so he's that old. And overall looks pretty cool, you know, looks relatively to how he does in like the animated show and of course here for the Ahsoka show. The only difference is I feel like in the cartoon he was more of a brown or tannish color, where he still got that sort of like tan color to him, but it's got more silver based into it as well. But overall I think he looks pretty good. So for the face, he's, you know, just got this weird looking face with these pieces that sort of droop down that seem to like add old age to him. Of course his eyes there that are just the circles with the cones that come out to the side, and I like how he's got almost look like a hard hat helmet, so or like a mining helmet or something with the, of course, the little thing that folds down, kind of like a microscope or magnifying glass. So I like he's got that, but since it's just based on here, it looks like it'd be a flashlight. So like I said, it looks like he's a miner, and then he has the all robot body, so looks pretty decent here with the all thinness, of course, of the arms and legs, and then the midsection where it's obviously for the live action show big enough for someone to fit into to be able to control the body, but the rest of it's all nice and thin. He has an apron on here which has all sorts of pockets and probably tools and stuff around it. Of course, since he does build lightsabers, he's always got to have all the tools and stuff ready for him. And then down the legs, which have the real thin legs. You know, we've seen similar like these, like the K2SO droid and stuff, you know, very similar design, but a little bit different. So overall, I think he works pretty good. Of course, he's thin and a little bit hard to like stand up with some of the joints, but does work out eventually. Now for movements, the head will get twisted all the way around. Of course, his neck always twists around there with him as well, so it's hard to really get it straightened back up to where it needs to be, but he can look down that far and up that far, so again, a little bit of rocking back and forth. Then the shoulders will come up. Now his shoulders are a little bit stiff and hard. You have to really like push down on them to get them to go down there, and they'll get up that far, so pretty close to 90. And then also rotate around. We get the single elbow joint here that has a rotation in it, so that's pretty normal, with the wrist that also twist around and hinge back and forth. Then we go to the ab crunch, so he's got the crunch again at the waist, so crunch back and forth and twist all the way around. Then we go down to his legs, so if we get his apron out of the way, his legs can come up to 90 and out to the side just a little bit there, and again has a little bit of a twist at the actual hip joint there. And then we go down to the knees that bend back to 90 with the rotation in them, and I do believe there is a double twist, so right at the top of the leg here, so like a shin twist, almost twist around there a little, as well as the actual knee joint. And then we go down to the foot that'll flex back and forth and twist a little bit side to side. So as I mentioned earlier, with the droids like this and all the other droids we've got, like battle droids and everything, they do have some issues getting to stand up because trying to get their legs to work out because they only have so much range, and then the thinness of them don't really hold up too well. It is a little bit difficult to get him to stand at times, and he likes to fall back and forth a little bit, so just got to mess around with him till he stands. And for accessories, we do get a backpack piece that has some additional arms, so we have some arms here that come off. We really see it more in the animated show when he's like trying to work on building lightsabers, so he'll be working on one side and his arms come out and they're reaching in boxes and stuff behind him, so we get those additional hands. And then we see him in the show where he's training lightsaber fighting with Sabine, and in it these arms are also holding like the fake lightsabers to fight with her. So I wish we could get that function with these. They're just kind of flat hands for this, unfortunately, but it is cool that they did include it, so we can put this onto his back. So there's the backpack on the back there, and of course a little bit difficult to get in because you got to get it around this piece that's already molded onto him, but once you do, it still allows the arms to move there to come out of the back, which is pretty cool. And for other accessories, we get a data pad, so we see him use data pad throughout the show. So we have this data pad we can try and put into his hand, so there he can be monitoring stuff with the data pad. And then he also comes with one of the training lightsabers that he trains Sabine with, so he uses these, and there's just like a beam of light that shoots out around this, almost like a lightsaber, but it's like a flashlight beam, and then he trains with Sabine with that, so we get this lightsaber as well that we can put into this other hand. So there, I just sort of stuck that in his hand there. It'd be cool if he had a place to store it on his belt, because I feel that's where he would store, or if we could put it into those hands on his back, but you can't do that either, so you just have to kind of hold on to it there with that. So that's pretty cool overall to have Huyang there. I really like this design. Like I said, I just wish Black Series would work better on their droids, because I always have a lot of issues with them, and this is another droid that has issues getting him to stand perfectly, but overall I think he looks pretty cool. And now moving over to our bad guys, we got Baylan Skoll, which is a Force-sensitive male that was a former Jedi Knight that survived the Jedi Purge and became a mercenary. And he, along with his apprentice Shin Hati, were working for Morgan Elspeth, aiding in her search to find Grand Admiral Thrawn. And overall, he looks cool here. I really like the look and design. I think they did a really good job with this. Face could be a little bit different because he seems a little bit too like old and mopey with the face. Just the beard seems a little bit too white, and then like I said, his face seems like mopey, like his face is sort of droopy down. And then I do know people have complained that he seems too short for the figure, so just the figure here alone by itself, probably seems just fine, but if you put him by the other figures, which we'll see later, he does look pretty short compared to them, so people have done mods to like get him extended out and stuff and stand taller. But overall, look wise, I think he looks really good. I think they did a good job with that overall. So of course we have the face, as I mentioned there, of course Ray Stevenson that passed away after doing this, but overall looks good. I like the hair design. I think they did a pretty good job with that. And then the white beard, like I said, looks like the beard he has. I just feel isn't this white, but I could just be misremembering. But like I said, his face seems to be like droopy just with the beard and the way the lines on his face are and stuff. But overall, I think they got the likeness there. And then his outfit, that's mostly this all black, but it almost seems to have like a patina on it. So like this sort of teal wash over it. But I like how this like upper armor here is all like segmented, and then the armor on his shoulders and stuff just all looks pretty cool. Even going down to the forearms, to his gloves, where he's even got a ring on his hand, which is pretty cool. I love that little detail. And then he's even got like this skirting that comes down, and of course black legs underneath, and the guards on his shins have the patina as well to it all the way down to the boots. So I think they did a really good job in like the wash over on this one as compared to a figure we'll get later. But overall, I think they just, besides like I said, the height and stuff, nailed this figure really good. But for movements, we get the head that'll twist all the way around. You can look down that far and up that far. So again, pretty much the same movements. Shoulders can come up to 90 with the butterfly joint back and forth and rotate around, and the armor does move around with him. They get the single elbow joint that bends to 90 with the rotation, and the wrist will twist around. Now he has that like ball joint thing again, so the hand can sort of move around wherever you want it there. Then we go to the ab crunch just at the waist there, so crunch back and forth and twist all the way around. Then go down to the legs. We'll have to get the skirting up and out of the way. His hips can come up to 90 and over to the side can do the splits there. We get the single knee joint back with the rotation in it, and then the foot will flex back and forth and twists a little side to side because he's got the armor that comes down, so it can't girdle it too much, but it does move side to side there. So even with the extra material and stuff on him there, it gets out of the way, so you do get all the movements, so no issues with any of that. And for his accessories, he comes with his lightsaber, and as I mentioned in the opening, the blade now has more of this orangish color. I don't know if it really comes through on the camera. To me, it just looks red, but I'll try and maybe show the difference between his lightsaber and Marrok that has the red lightsaber, so it does have more of an orange tint. And then he has like this broadsword, or I forget what you call it, where it's like a really long sword compared to normal lightsabers, so that looks pretty cool. Again, the hilt has the little clasp there, and he does have a space on his belt here that you can sort of hang it on. But let's go and try and put this in his hand, and because it's such a big sword, he always double hands it, so let's see if I can get it in there like that. So there, I was able to get the sword into to his hand and kind of hold it how he does in the show there, especially when he fights like Ahsoka. So overall, that looks pretty cool. Of course, with the sword just being so long, everything sticks really high above him, but it looks really cool there. So that just looks awesome overall for Baylan. Like I said, I wish he was taller like he should be, but overall, look-wise, they did a really good job for him. And next up, we have Shin Hati, which is a Force-sensitive female born after the Jedi Purge and what Baylan calls a Boken Jedi. And she's working as a mercenary under her master, Baylan Skoll, who is training her to become something greater than a Jedi, as he said in the series. And overall, she looks cool here. Now, unlike Baylan, she is too tall, so she needs to be shorter. And again, there's mods out there that you can do to him to get her shorter in height. But overall, I think she looks pretty decent. I don't know, like, I do think this is like a second running because her lightsaber also looks orange, but I don't know if they've changed because I feel in all the pictures I've seen of her, it looks like she has almost like a black like line, like spray paint line going across her eyes. That could just be something I'm just like making up, but I always seem like it in pictures I've seen of this figure, that's how it is, where with this one it's clearly not, but she does have the dark makeup around her eyes like she does in the show. So I do like the look of this one. It seems to be more accurate. And then she has her shorter like bleach blonde bob haircut with the bangs and then the short cut there in the back, but she does also have the apprentice like braid there, so similar to like Anakin and Obi-Wan had in episode 1. So that's pretty cool that she has that thrown in there being a Padawan. And then we have her outfit that's a lot of like tan colors or cream colors. So we have the tan in the midsection here, which again has the segmented lines similar to Baylan with the armor up on her arms, and then even some going down so on the bicep and then down on the forearms. Looks like she almost has Mandalorian band braces or something there. So cool, she has that armor thrown in, belt around the waist with some padding on her thighs, and then like a skirting or dress material coming down. And I love how we have like sort of this like color with green sort of thrown into it compared to like the tan color there. And then underneath that we do have her legs, so she's got black pants on going down to the armored legs again with more of that tan color all the way down to the boots. So I think overall she looks pretty decent. Obviously I feel they could have done stuff to make it look more accurate on top of also making her shorter as she should be, but I think look wise of this especially, she looks pretty decent. But for the movements, we get a head that'll twist all the way around, look down that far and up that far, so again pretty much the same movements as all the others. Shoulders up to 90 with that butterfly joint, although like I said they don't move too much, but they throw the joint in there, and of course it'll rotate around. We get the single elbow joint that can bend to 90 with the rotation, and the wrist will twist around and has the hinge up and down joint. Then we get the ab crunch again at the waist, so crunch back and forth and twist all the way around. And then we go to her legs, so I have to get her dress out of the way there, so hips up to 90 and out to the side again. Single knee joint back to 90 with rotation, and then the foot will flex back and forth and twist side to side. So overall she works out just fine and similar to all the others. And then of course for her accessory, she comes with her lightsaber, which is like a normal size lightsaber, but again it has that orangish color to it, and then has the hilt that we can clip onto her belt and everything. But let's just go and put this into her hand. So there, I just tried to pose her up somehow. I don't know really what to do with her, but overall again there she is, and I think she looks pretty cool. And again, for comparison, here is Baylan, so you can just see they're not too far off in height. So again, he needs to be bigger and she needs to be a little bit shorter there, but overall I think they both look good together. Like I said, they just sort of need to fix the height, and overall they'd both be pretty good. And our final figure today is Marrok, which is a Force-sensitive humanoid, formerly a member of the Empire's Inquisitorius, now mercenary working alongside Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati for Morgan Elspeth, and he's defeated by Ahsoka Tano, where a green mist is expelled from his body. So we don't know exactly what's going on with him, if he's a person that has died already and Morgan Elspeth brought him back to life, so he was just kind of like a zombie. Not exactly sure what's going on there, and hopefully we get some more explanation. But overall I think he looks pretty decent, looks pretty much how he does in the show. It just has like this, I want to say knight's armor, so he could, supposed to be part of the Inquisitorius, so has more of the Inquisitorius outfit on, but it looks almost like knight's armor, especially with the helmet's design, so it looks pretty cool. But now we get the issue that I don't like as much, is how much orange is on this. So I assume it's supposed to be rust, and there is like, in the show has like where all the layers and segmentation is, there's like some rust color, some orange, but I feel they went overboard with it. It just needed to be a real thin brushing over it, but it seems like they just added way too much on him, and I just don't like this for that alone, because he's got way too much orange on him. But overall, besides that, I think he does look relatively cool, where like I said, he's got almost like the knight's armor, so we have the big helmet design, so of course this would be the visor piece you see out of, and then you can even see it looks like it would hinge up and down, and then the helmet comes around there with like all the lines and stuff. And he's got the armor up on his shoulders, and then the chest plate coming down to the midsection, armor on his forearms there going down to the hands, and then armor from his knees all the way way down to the boots. And again, even looks like knight's armor all the way down there for the boot designs with the metal coming off the side. And then it looks like he just got a black body glove underneath that, so down the arms and the midsection there, down his legs. So overall, I think he looks pretty decent, just way too much orange on this. But for movements, get that, they'll twist all the way around, look down that far and up that far, so same movements. Shoulders up 90 with the butterfly and rotate around. Single elbow joint to 90 with rotation, and then the wrist twist around and is on that ball joint once again, so just kind of go wherever you want. We get the ab crunch right in here, so crunch back and forth and twist all the way around, and then down to the hips we come up to 90 and out to the side. Single knee joint back with rotation, and then the foot will flex back and forth and twist side to side. So again, the exact same movements. And then of course, as you see, he does also have this cape on his back that, of course, if you do any sort of movement around, will get out of place, but you just sort of drape it over his shoulders there like that, so it hangs down around him. And as I mentioned, he was a former member of the Inquisitorius, so we do get the Inquisitor lightsaber again like he had in the show, so it looks pretty cool with the red lightsaber blades there. And as I mentioned, so here's Shin Hati's, which again, you can't really tell, it just seems like the red is more see-through compared to hers, but the colors don't seem too far off. But in real life, you can kind of tell that the others do have more of an orange to them. Now we do have the hilt, the Inquisitor hilt, that does have the peg, and he does have the spot on the back, so obviously we can take the blades out and sort of store this there on his back. But let's go and just try and stick this into his hand. And there I got Marrok with the lightsaber there, which looks pretty cool. Of course, the coolest thing in the show was when he threw it at Ahsoka and she just barely dodged it. But overall, that looks really cool there for Marrok. Like I said, I think he overall looks good like he does in the show, just way too much orange on this. They need to tone it down. But overall, I think he does look really cool here and a nice figure. Well, that's going to be it for our Star Wars Black Series Ahsoka show figures, where we got Sabine, Hera, Ezra, Huyang, Baylan, Skoll, Shin, Hati, and Marrok. All of these are really cool figures. Love having them, especially like our old Rebels characters here in the center. So getting them put in live action is really cool. Getting like Huyang, again, taken for me from the Clone Wars series into live action is cool. And then our new bad guys, pretty much Sith from the show of Baylan, Shin, and Marrok. They all look really cool. So very cool figures to add to the collection. Happy with all these minor things, especially like with Baylan and Shin, where they could be adjusted height-wise. But everything else looks pretty good and decent for what they are. Like I said, I wish more, especially like the Rebels characters, looked more exactly how they did from the Rebels show, but of course they're going to modify them for live action and everything. But I think they did a pretty good job with what they got. So overall, really happy with all these figures and very happy to add them to my collection. So let me know what you thought of these down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this review, let me know with a thumbs up. But thank you all for watching. I hope you all stay awesome out there, and I'll see you in our next review.